Hello everybody, here at KNT, and I got this big chunk of steel that I was talking about making into a tool and cutter grinder. I'm going to start machining on it today, as you can see in the title card of the video. And I wanted to discuss order of operations, because with something like this, order of operations is very crucial. You can really screw up if you machine the wrong surface first, and you don't think about your steps. You don't think about what kind of tools you have, and how you can utilize them for the job. So, main star of the show is going to be this guy up here. Main star of the show will be this guy here. It's APKT 1604 inserts, 2-inch face mill, ISCAR hard milling inserts, fresh. Back on the stand here. There we go. That'll be the star of the show. That'll do a lot of the milling on here, because the rest of my tooling is all high-speed steel. And while I've used high-speed steel on this material, I'll show you guys a photo of an anvil I did a bunch of milling on, about 160 inches of milling on it. I used some high-speed steel on it, and it cuts this stuff like butter. However, carbide is much better in many respects for something like this, especially because I have to do a lot of machining to this. I do have some decent 2-inch end mills, but that obviously goes into my horizontal spindle. And I also have some decent NMTB 40 end mills, or end mills that can fit into my NMTB 40 holders. This guy, however, is dull. I would love to use it. It would be very good for the main problem on this particular piece is this corner here. This guy would be very good for that. I could get very close without too many issues. However, again, that guy's dull. This guy, however, is also dull. Not super dull though, so I'm probably going to end up using this to get me pretty close. I can't use my 2-inch face mill because this wall will run into my spindle before the cutter will cut. I'm going to be milling the way that this surface grinder, or I guess tool and cutter grinder, surface grinder, it's going to be a very general use grinder is going to be built, is I'm going to have a saddle right here. I'm going to put in dovetails just like a milling machine, or like a lot of surface grinders. We'll have dovetails here with a table on top. The only area that's going to differ from most surface grinders or tool and cutter grinders is how the head mounts. I'm going to use 2 pieces of drill rod, relatively large, I think either 1 inch or 3/4 inch, depending on the price. Sadly, price is what drives a lot of things. The nut's going to be right in the middle here, and the whole head will go up and down, and use those pieces of drill rod to locate it. Rather than having ways and having the whole saddle move up and down, or the way a lot of other machines are constructed, the accuracy will derive from those 2 chunks of drill rod. The table, I don't know what exactly the travel as far as Y, or no, not Y, as far as Z and X go. I think X might be a foot or so. Z maybe similar. I don't know. All I know is that I need to machine this guy down, get some reference surfaces on it, get it looking real nice. Really looking nice isn't a huge part of the deal, but it helps. I have a ball nose end mill that I'm probably going to use so that I don't create a stress riser right here. Frankly, this piece of steel does not need it, but I don't want to be taking away too much material. This is a forging. I don't know how well they did this or how well this forging was made, so it might have some internal stresses. If it does, those will throw off my readings and just won't be a good day. It'll be inaccurate, it'll warp. Speaking of warping forgings, this guy, this is the plate that I was going to make the banjo out of. And as you can tell, it's but ugly. I mean, like, part of it's nice, but there's shelves and there's ridges. It's highly warped on both sides. It used to have a bow in it in this direction, and it was also twisted, which I didn't realize. I don't have a decent way of annealing this right now. I would have my forge and anvil, and I'd be able to straighten it out, get it within, I don't know, a 16th or so. Probably better than that. And anneal it, and be a beautiful forging. Get all the internal stresses out. But I don't have any of that here, as you can see. Yeah, I'm not using that for the banjo anymore. It sounded like I was beating a dog as I was machining this. It was such a spring and such a bell. Didn't do well. I did clamp it down quite nicely and didn't work out. It doesn't always work out whenever you're trying to fudge together stuff. Even if you're doing it properly, it might not work out. So I'm going to get machining on this. I'm going to, first step, going to be creating my first reference surface, and I'm going to be starting with the larger. I'm going to be machining, well, I mean this whole surface really. Probably put some of my patented mill clamps on the sides to keep her nice and steady with some toe clamps. Heaviest machining is going to be right here in this back corner, or this back shelf, because it's sort of bowed from the way it was forged. Shouldn't be too hard to get this thing down to size. This face mill insert, can't really see it. These face milling inserts, they're amazing. I've done some decent work with them. And I need to buy more. Well, time to get to it. I really gotta get this mill table planed or something, ground. Seen some hard use. Well, my plan has sort of changed. This here is the larger surface. It's going to be the first one that I machine. And I can't actually machine this entire surface, sadly. This back corner here will hit either the drive housing or the dovetail first, before that cutter can machine it. Now, some of you, the astute among you, may know that this head can move in and out. It can move quite far, I think 14 odd inches out away from the column. You might be thinking, well, just move it out a couple of inches. Wow. Right there's the end of my Y travel. I can't move this guy this way much, or I risk not being able to machine this back corner here. I could probably machine this back corner down a little bit, but that's not what I'm going to do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to machine this area here, everything beyond the bar. The bar is kind of a stupid safety thing, or stupid person safety thing. If I hit the bar, then I'm too far that way. I'm going to machine all of this. I'm going to relieve the middle so that only the two sides are touching. That was the original plan for this entire area, was only the sides here would be touching the base. That way it would reduce my chances of having an error anything in the middle, let's say there's a piece of dust right in the middle, it wouldn't matter because there'd be a cutout for that piece of dust to rest in. I'd only have to, it just helped reduce the amount of error I had. But now what I'm going to have to do is cut out the middle here and relieve right here. That, or I could machine all of this to a certain point, and without changing the position of the knee, I could bring the head out and then machine this. I'm probably going to try that. I don't know if I trust the accuracy of the overarms that much, but we'll see. If it doesn't work out, I can just relieve it down if it's not at the same Z level. If it is, beautiful, do that and relieve the middle and then done with it. But it's little things like that that you really got to think about whenever you're machining something like this. If I just went at this without thinking about that, without seeing if my cutter cleared, I could have crashed this chunk right into this housing without even thinking about it, and that wouldn't have been very good, obviously. Well, now that we got that little bit out of the way, time to actually get machining on this. It's clamped down obviously with my little mill clamp, so I'm not going to be doing too heavy a work on here. Probably 4 thou per chip, 150 surface feet per minute, something like that. Nothing too heavy, probably not even too deep of a depth of cut. I'm pretty confident this will stay here. I have, it's a decent chunk, frankly. It's not. It shouldn't move a whole lot. It's quite secure. Has a decent amount of contact all the way around. These screws aren't even touching. It's just, I'm using this as a sort of a jaw. Using these as 2-piece vices so that I can access the entire surface without having to move around toe clamps, possibly distorting my part. So, after a small amount of thinking and me realizing I'm kind of dumb, I'm going to be switching over to the horizontal spindle and using the horizontal spindle to finish up the rest of this job. It will take me a lot longer, but I should get a more accurate part out of it. This setup with my two mill adjusters, not the most rigid, especially for this material, and they're not, these ones being prototypes, they're not designed correctly, this isn't the best setup to do what I need to do, especially because I can't even machine a good chunk of my part. So I'm going to flip this up, I'm going to take the horizontal or the universal head off, and I'm going to be using high-speed steel. Now, these chunks of high-speed steel here, not the sharpest in the world. They should do for this job. I might use this 2 flute. I also have that 6 flute. I'm not particularly worried about rigidity. Those that are thinking, oh, don't use that one. I'm not going to be taking a very deep depth of cut. I'm not going to be taking much per tooth. Per tooth, probably 1/1000ths per tooth and 25 surface feet per minute. I'll have to calculate all that. Depth, maybe a 1/16 of an inch. I would like to do most of this in one pass, but I don't really have to. So I'll take you guys with me as I am taking off the vertical head to show you guys that little process. It might be interesting to like 2 of you. There might be a weird fat guy in the way, but he's my intern. Drop his ring. Oh, got my 6 flute 2-inch cutter in here. Gonna be probably running it as if it's closer to 1 1/4 inches or 1 3/4 inches because of this radius on here. I chose my 6 flute as opposed to my 2 flute, really only because more cutting teeth gives me more speed as far as inches per minute goes, because each tooth will take a certain amount of material off, no matter what. You don't want to mess with that too much unless you're trying to find your correct feeds and speeds. But if you already have your feeds and speeds down pat, more teeth means that each tooth can take a bigger cut. So I'm going to be flipping the material up on its side. This leg here is going to go here. It's going to go like this. There's a specific reason for that. More surface area pushing down where the cutter's pushing down, on the side that the cutter's pushing down. It'll help keep it stable. I'll get to that. As you can see, I have machined my first reference surface that the accuracy of every other surface will be built on. Now, I'm not too happy with this surface finish. I kind of cut out the video a little bit. That last part was me using this here dirty cutter. I did a bunch of machining off camera. This took me a decent amount of time, and I don't believe my phone has the memory to video all of this. I cut this channel here in the middle. That didn't take too long, just one pass with this rather nice cutter. Kind of dull, but it did the job. Now again, I'm not too happy with this surface finish. I don't really mind the middle because it's, it is not going to be seen at all. But I don't know if I want to build the accuracy of my little surface / tool and cutter grinder on this. It's bumpy. So what I'm going to do, you might be thinking, how the heck am I going to be remedying that? I already took it out and therefore all my accuracy is lost. Kinda. I'm going to use it as a reference surface one time. I'm going to machine one of these surfaces, probably either this one or this one, the biggest surfaces. And I'm going to be using that so that I can use my vertical head, or as a flat spot, so I can use my vertical head to machine it. It's going to be on its side and raised so that I can use my carbide 5-tooth, I guess 5 cutter, 2-inch face mill, which leaves behind some mirror finishes, but I can't utilize it on this because the only way I can set it back up now, I'll lose my reference, and I don't want to remove too much material. I've already removed a lot of material from this piece, and while I'm all for material removal, in this case I'm a little tired, and so I'm going to try to keep the amount that I have to machine off to a minimum. So, got her mounted how I would like to mount her. I'm going to be machining this side with this cutter. It's not going to leave the best of surface finishes, however, it will leave a surface finish that is acceptable for refinishing the bottom. I've cleaned the top. I didn't stone it. Probably should have stoned it, but I looked at it. It's good. I'm not going to show any video of me machining this. I will show how I set up the vertical head to remachine or resurface the bottom. But if you want to see more of what's going to happen over here, just go back a couple of minutes and rewatch what already happened whenever I already machined the bottom here. Just long, arduous, kind of boring. That's alright. I've established my first two reference points. These two here should be perfectly square with each other. Surface finishes, again, aren't very nice. So I'm going to put this up on blocks so that I can swivel my universal head down and remachine down here. Then I'll bring it back up and use this surface as my next reference so that I can machine this side, the other side, back here, the front, the top, up here, basically everything. I really want this to be nice and smooth, good and even. There's a ridge up here that's just a couple of thou because I didn't lock the Z-axis, and so if I sit there and I hinge it on the mill table, it hinges on this corner here. It also doesn't help that I haven't deburred it yet. In any case, I'm going to get to machining. I'm going to set up the vertical head, and I'll bring you back when I got it all set up how I want it. Back here at the bench with the big old chunk of forklift tying, and boy, off camera did this damn thing give me a fight. I'm almost angry at myself. I need a larger face mill so I can do larger surfaces like this without any issue. I had it, as you saw in the first part of the video, on the mill table, kind of like this. Milled off, that kind of swept up, milled off this big chunk. Didn't work out because my clamping didn't work. Put it in the horizontal, or put it horizontally. My tooling wasn't sharp. Put it back, put the vertical head back on, had that wonky setup. Setup wasn't very rigid, and the tooling, everything was just sticking out too far to be able to take any decent cut. And now those carbide inserts, to get a decent finish, you need to have rigidity, and you need to have some pretty high feeds. So it just fought me at every single step of the way. It's taken me days to get this surface machined, all because I don't have maybe 2 or 3 inches extra Y travel, or a 6-inch face mill, or even a 4-inch carbide face mill. Oh well, yeah, it's fought me, and this is what I'm going to have to live with as my first reference surface for a little bit. I also have this side machined poorly. Sharp tooling is pretty much why I'm making this little carbide, or this little grinder, because yeah, I have $17 in my bank account. I can't just go out and buy a whole bunch of nice sharp tooling. Gotta live with what I have for the most part. So I'm going to be using the vise from here on out and using this surface here and this surface. They're very square. Need to break all the edges. I'm also going to take a stone and stone these surfaces. Hopefully the vise, it's sitting on some horizontal milling arbor spacers like these. But I'm going to take a stone to these, hopefully get it a bit smoother, get any of the high spots off. Hopefully the vise will give me a much more rigid setup to machine the other surfaces. And hopefully I'll be able to come back and get this nice and smooth. I'm not super worried about this channel. All it is clearance. But these surfaces, it started off kind of nice here. But then I went down to here and it just died. Look at that. It's garbage. It's garbage. Those inserts, they're capable of such nice surface finishes. I can get a mirror surface finish with the rigid setup. I didn't have a rigid setup. I couldn't put it in my 50 taper tooling, which sucked. I wish I could put that carbide face mill on my horizontal spindle. That thing is as strong as you'll get with this machine. In any case, this will be the end of the video. It's taken me 3-ish days to do this, which to a normal machinist who has all the tools, that is atrocious. But for me, the nicest thing I have is my machine. I'm using it to the best of my ability. Especially me being an amateur machinist. I mean, I probably could have gone about this in a much more intelligent way, but I'm learning. In any case, thank you for watching up until this point. I should have more videos out on this guy soon. If you want to watch me fumble my way through making a tool and cutter grinder, then like and subscribe and share this video. If you don't like it, let me know. Let me know what you don't like. Also, sorry about the mess. It's been a long weekend. But thank you for watching. Like and subscribe, as I said. If you would like to see, if you don't like it, then let me know. I don't care. Or don't. Have a beautiful day.